Welcome to our podcast, Inspiring Living with me, Mark Candelaria. I'm an architect, blogger, traveler, chef, father, and husband. I'm the founder and now a partner of a fabulous 25-person architecture firm specializing in high-end residential architecture, designing amazing homes across the country. We have hosted tours to Italy, Spain, and now Napa over the last 20 years, and in the course of all this, I have met a lot of interesting people who truly inspire me. Our podcast is about all the opportunities that are right there in front of us to inspire living. Yes, we will talk about architecture and design, but every week we will venture into all sorts of topics that will inspire you, teach you, and motivate you to inspire living every day. My guests will include a wide gamut of amazing people, from those in the design industry to clients to real estate professionals, chefs, artists, sports figures, and philanthropists, and people who just flat out get it. Sit back and enjoy, and let's have some fun exploring all of the opportunities that are there just waiting for us. Please subscribe and get ready to be inspired every week. Okay, as my dad says, here we go. Okay, welcome back. We are here in Highpoint, North Carolina. Actually, we're in Greensboro, North Carolina. We are here for the fall market, and I'll tell you what, we enjoy coming here. I don't think we're here in the spring, but we were here, I believe, last fall, and we have a great time here. I mean, it's a pretty amazing thing to come see how this little town in central North Carolina basically comes alive for 5 or 6 days. And I think you have interior designers here from not only all over the country, but all over the world. And even if you're not an interior designer, I find it pretty darn fascinating just to walk around and check everything out and see all the new products. And, you know, it's just a great networking opportunity. I meet a lot of new people, and, you know, it's just kind of nice to come up here and get a little taste of fall and get out of the desert. It's actually overcast and rainy. I think there was some hurricane that blew up from the Gulf that is kind of dying out over us, but it's not too bad. Out it feels like fall, and we're enjoying it. So we had a kind of a rough day getting up here, but we made it, and we're looking forward to some fun. We've got a couple announcements. On November 7th, I will be cooking with architect C.P. Druitt at Expressions Gallery. We're going to do a little demonstration with Your Iconic Life. Go to iconiclife.com for the information. My good friend and master chef Mark Tarbell will be kind of overseeing and being the MC for the event, so it should be a lot of fun. And then on November 9th, Isabel and I have a fantastic home that we did a whole house makeover on, and we will be on the Phoenix Home and Garden VIP tour. And that'll be, I think it's on a Saturday. I think Saturday, November 9th. We're the final house on the tour, and Isabel and I will be serving homemade New Mexican pozole and Prosecco, okay? A little New Mexico combined with a little Italy. Can't beat that deal, right? So get your tickets. Go to phoenixhomeandgarden.com, and there'll be an event there about the home tour, and you can get your tickets and see us there, okay? Okay, so we're going to be here at Highpoint for about 4 days, and my goal was to kind of, you know, compress everybody that I'm speaking to into one podcast. And Stacy and Evelyn back at the office are like, there is no way that's going to happen. There's no way you're going to be able to get the people you want to speak with, you know, crammed into one podcast. And so I have to admit they were correct, totally correct. There's no way I'm going to do it. So the first person I interviewed was an interior designer who is bar none one of the best in the country. She's doing work all over the country. I met her here in Highpoint, North Carolina, several years back when we were both doing some episodes on the Design Network. And we became good friends, and now we are collaborating on a couple projects, one in Salt Lake City and one right here in Greensboro. And so, yeah, I'm going to break these interviews up into a couple podcasts. So let's just start with Anne-Marie. She's got a great story. You're going to love her energy and her soulfulness in what she has to say about design, the market, and just life in general. Okay, I have my first guest here who is a very, very dear friend of mine. We've become great friends over the years. It's very interesting how we met.
It is.
But we are right where we met, actually.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And
I've
that's
got
the way it should be.
Anne-Marie Barton here of A&B Design out of Salt Lake City, Utah.
Yes.
And we met on basically the set of the Design Network.
We did.
Right?
And it was not love at first sight, but it was definitely warmth at first sight.
Warmth at
because
first
Mark, you were fun to talk to. And I think we saw eye to eye right from the very
Oh, yeah.
beginning. We knew that our work was extremely important, but our time at the Design Network was fun.
A lot of fun.
And we thought it was a diversion, I think, from our everyday work.
Oh, yeah. And it was kind of, kind of the beginning of all of the multimedia efforts that people
Yes.
now use, podcasting, social media. I mean, it was really the forefront. I remember someone showed me Instagram. I'm like, what the hell is this?
Oh, remember we were trying to figure out what hashtag
What hashtags
meant?
were? Right. That's where I first learned
so
the word.
true.
You always remember those key moments in your life, like where I learned the first hashtag.
Oh my gosh, we were together on the
We
Design
were
Network.
right there, right?
That's
I think
a
we
good
were on the
memory.
Serta mattress one time.
Oh my gosh, we did lay on that thing. People filmed us, and it was one of those, it would lift. It would. I hate to say, do I dare say it would vibrate?
Oh, yeah,
but
it did everything.
We loved that.
Yeah.
We thought we were
I
cute.
thought it was pretty amazing.
What was
so.
that? 10 years ago or
That
less?
was about, I was trying to put, I think it was like 2013.
Mm-hmm.
I think I had just gotten married like 2 weeks before that.
Jeez, I mean, I hope that was okay.
So yeah, I just got married in Italy, and then I'm here back in Highpoint on the Serta bed with Anne-Marie.
Well, the viewers can't see us right now, so it's not that embarrassing.
So anyway, we are also now, I mean, over the time this has evolved, we're now doing a couple projects together.
It's really, I've always said you just have to watch what you wish for and make sure that you're graceful through life because things come around.
Yeah,
and
there's
come
always a
back to
reason
you.
for everything is what I've learned.
Yes, and I feel like we'll have opportunities throughout the rest of our lives, and we're sort of contemporaries.
Yeah.
Which
Oh, yeah.
makes it kind of nice.
Yeah, and we've got a great team on both projects.
That's right.
Virtually the same team.
Yes.
Pretty close.
Pretty close.
And so that's really, that always makes things a lot easier, I think, because when you get the same players on the band on the
Yes.
stage.
Well, and now that I've been to your office party in Scottsdale.
That was fun, right?
Yes, I feel like I know your whole team
Right.
in a much more familiar way.
Sure.
So I feel like I'm connected.
Yeah, and we've got one of your new employees here, Marissa.
Marissa's joining me today. She's my
Yeah.
newest, youngest employee.
So is
and
this her first trip to Highpoint?
It is her first trip, and I love seeing it through her eyes.
Yeah.
Things are more interesting,
I bet so.
this time
Yeah.
around because, I'm like, look up close. And by the way, this is what this means. And, this hard to find way through Highpoint with all the buildings.
Yeah,
Whew.
it's interesting. I mean, I remember the first time I came here, and I was just blown away. I mean, there's so much to absorb. And now I've probably been
know.
here, I don't know, maybe 9 or 10 times, and you do see things differently. I think life is the same way, right?
Yes.
You kind of go through life, and you kind of get numbed out by the everyday. And sometimes it's good just to look at the everyday and go, you know what? That's a pretty special little thing right there that I just take for granted every day.
It's so true. I could be a little slumpy because there's so much ahead of me
Right.
when I land, but instead I have to say I get the jump in my step. The minute I walked into that big building,
Yeah.
I even said to Marissa, okay, I'm feeling it.
Yeah.
I am feeling it. And I don't know if it's I love spending other people's money,
Right.
but that is a
Oh, yeah,
good
that's part of it.
feeling, and
Mhm.
knowing that you're really just contributing, really, and curating
Sure.
the entire time.
Yeah.
What is it you love?
Right.
And of course, now we're doing the Instagram, the
Yep.
story.
Yep.
So I have to propone my favorite things.
Yeah, that's good.
So I'm always looking.
Yeah. No, and that's the other thing. There is always a story to everything that we do.
That's true.
And I think sometimes it's important for people to realize, okay, I'm doing this, I'm going here, what's the underlying story to what I'm doing here? And then figure out that story and try to tell it in some way.
It's true.
Right?
I find more and more people are watching my story, and I'm sure it's the same
Oh, yeah.
for everyone. So you do have an opportunity to brand without really trying that hard.
Sure.
But you do have to be authentic.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. I mean, yesterday our story was just getting our asses over here.
It sounded like it.
Oh, my God, it was crazy. We had a 4-hour delay for a 3-hour flight, and I was like, well, this doesn't add up, And then we got to the gate in Charlotte, and then there was a plane in the gate, so we couldn't get into the gate. We had a 20-minute connection. from the E-terminal to the B terminal. We made it from 8 o'clock to 8:15, running through the terminal, and caught our flight. And our luggage made it. It was like a miracle.
And you got in about 10:30?
We got in about 10:30, yeah. It was a long day. But anyway, we kind of just put that story out there, and it was just people are having fun just kind of following it. But
I don't know why, but we love to see the personal side of people.
Right, the real side.
Yeah, and I have a feeling that's what this is about, these podcasts for you.
Totally. Yeah.
I feel honored to be included.
Yeah, no, this is great. So we have a fun project going on here in Greensboro.
Yes, we do. And I think it's a very unique project.
Oh, my gosh.
For
very
Greensboro.
Unique. Yeah, we might not get into that, but it is pretty darn unique. It's on a beautiful piece of property, and we're doing kind of a modern farmhouse.
I think it's
traditional,
a historical modern.
Historical modern. That's what we're calling it.
And I feel like it's important that we maintain the historical side because of where the property is.
Yes.
And paying homage to the earth around it that's been cultivated for 100 years or more.
Yeah.
But we want the fresh.
Yep.
And the client is very excited to have order in his home, light in his home, familyhood, big enough rooms.
Right.
So it's such an exciting change that I think together we're giving.
Yeah, and I think what I'm finding fascinating, not only about this house, but a lot of the houses I do, is how this house will transform over the years. And we're thinking, he's at a certain age now, and his kids are in high school or grade school, but we all know how fast 10, 20 years go by. And so we're also looking into the future, like, okay, when you're a grandfather, where are the grandkids going to be? And I think more people need to do that with their house. They design the house to a specific spot in time. And we always try to design for a long period of time.
I have to break in with an example of that is utterly hilarious. A client in Scottsdale had I was helping them, and they required that all the doorknobs and door handles be raised an extra 10 inches throughout the entire house because they didn't want their children to be able to reach that. Well, geez, 3 years later, they could all reach it. And then no one could ever buy that house because it was out of...
Well, that's the other thing. Sometimes people make it a little too custom. And it's like, no. So we're always thinking of both resale and longevity.
Well, this house in North Carolina that you have designed architecturally has such a living component on the main floor that also offers entertainment value and they will host many people as they're a prominent provider of furnishings in this area. My favorite piece of this new home is what I call the lantern. And that's this all glass and steel space that the breakfast room will be contained in, adjacent to the kitchen. I don't think there will be anything prettier than sitting in there and having coffee, looking out on the lake that is on this property and the very old trees. And you've positioned it just looking over the crest of the hill.
Right.
It's one
long
of my
vista.
Now, some would say it's nice to look at the golf course. I'm looking the other way because I'm not a golfer, but it is beautifully positioned both ways.
And I think, it is called a breakfast room, but we all know it's going to be used for a lot more than just a breakfast room. It connects to all the patios, so you can entertain there at night. You could have intimate dinner for 4 or 5 people in there in the evening.
And it extends the view from the kitchen to be fully... the full height of glass. Yeah. So it's not like we have a partial wall. And then the windows, we're seeing through, we're touching the landscaping. Just while I'm cooking in the kitchen, I can connect to it.
Right. And see, that's part of the reason I like working. Obviously, you work with a lot of architects. I work with a lot of interior design. Hell, I'm married to an interior designer. But, what I love about working with you so far is the fact that you go into that much depth of thinking about the living. And to me, that is, I feel that, and that resonates with me so much, and that's so much about what this podcast is about is living, And I think again, people take that for granted. Everyone's rushing through this speedway of life, and it's like, sit and think about it every day. Think about, okay, how am I going to make this day just a little bit more better.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I often grappled with the thought that, hey, could I be doing something better for mankind as a career? And I mean, literally, I would wonder sometimes, especially on hard days, what is it I'm giving on this opportunity I have to live on earth? And it really, when you see the way people feel when they walk through the door, when I get to do their reveal, when it brings them to tears, when you come back and you see them living happily in that house, that is the reward. And I actually think it is underestimated.
Oh, yeah.
How living a beautiful life
changes your whole life.
It really does. And it allows you to be more gracious, more hospitable, and just be more inspired within your own home before you leave.
Sure.
And then can you imagine how much of a better your day is?
Oh my gosh,
and more delightful you are. I think it really matters.
Yeah. Okay, so the other part of that though is I think people think it takes a lot of money to make your house beautiful and to live a good life. And I don't think that's true.
No, I think the trick and the best designers are those that can do it on a lower budget.
Yep.
But I think the authenticity of the way you really live is important to maintain and not create these over-glamorized homes that are just not realistic. But in our own homes currently, we could probably edit quite a bit, and that would make for a better life in your home. And so reduce the amount of accessories, create more order, create a special spot for yourself where everything's at hand, your favorite thank you notes, your lists of things to do, beautiful pens to write with. Just elevate. I've always believed that people can do better and raise their own bar in their own homes, and it's appreciated by them only. And that's all that, sure, if you have a family, they love it too. But I think we can raise our own bar higher.
Yeah. I think we do, our society in general, we get so caught up in the consumerism of living and just thinking that buying this, buying that, buying this is going to make us feel better. And what you just said, to me, really makes sense. I think people just need to focus on the simple things, be authentic in how you live. You see the same thing in social media as you do in living. It's like, just be yourself.
Yeah.
You don't need all this clutter
to
be you.
Right. And hey, have parts of your past evident in your home. Look at it. Allow it to be your story.
Right. It's part of the gratitude part of the whole point of living.
I was listening to Diane Keaton speak yesterday.
Oh, interesting.
And she mentioned how important it was to her that she had every one of her books out on the shelves and handily available.
Yeah.
It was her story.
Yeah.
And so I think whatever it is, if it's artwork, for me it's art and different collections that I've put together. And gosh, they don't all go together. But it's the collage of your life that we need to put upon our walls and
that's
in our
exactly
homes.
You were just at our house last week and you saw all my books on the wall, and I love that. I go in that room and it's like I feel the soul and the memories of all those books. Like what was I thinking when I bought that book and read that book, and all that stuff all that energy is sitting in there.
And that's way better than Chotsky. I hate that word and also having any. So let's get rid of our Chotsky.
Let's de-Chotsky.
De-Chotsky.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about yourself, Anne-Marie. Where you're from, how did you end up in Salt Lake City, and how did you get into interior design?
Oh, my gosh. My first job, I was 12 years old.
Oh, wow.
And I had come up with the idea. We were living in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm partially from both Atlanta and Connecticut.
Okay.
I went to both many times.
Yep.
But at 12 years old, I decided I wanted a safari bedroom, complete with lion sheets and, of course, a hanging wicker chair, which I still wish I had to this day. Obviously, what goes around comes around. So I went to my father. He said, well, sure, I'll match you dollar for dollar. So, we can do the new bedroom, but you'll have to earn some money.
That's good.
So I thought, well, what's the one job I could do as a 12-year-old? Well, I went door to door selling Avon products.
Good for you.
And sure
you got
enough,
that whole sales aspect.
Yes, I do tell interior designers we're 50-50 here. We have to be good salespeople and have an aesthetic. So I earned the money that was sufficient. My dad paid the other half of that, and we hung that basket chair, and this room was just exactly as I pictured. And then my dad said, guess what? I got a promotion and we're moving. So I did have the room. It was my first job. My parents built 8 homes growing up. That's how many times I moved before I started high school. And every time, untrained, unexperienced, my parents would venture to build a new home. The samples were sloshing in the back of our car. I was a dining table.
So this is your life.
A dining table always had architectural plans on it.
Yeah.
So this was how I was raised, and my mother would get out of the car at a job site and say, "That will not do," with her arms in the air, with her arms in the air. That will not do. So I'm used to having confidence in this field, and so it was that I started in the career by building my own house.
Interesting.
And decided that I would be my own contractor to save money.
So how did you get out to Salt Lake?
Oh, my goodness. I went to American University first in Washington, D.C., and that boyfriend wasn't working out. Oops. So I decided I would look into my other friend who was already at BYU.
Okay.
And so he said, you're going to love it. I thought people wore bell-bottoms and cowboy boots in the West. I really had no idea. I'd been to Hollywood and otherwise the East Coast. So we drove out there, and when I saw the mountains and when I saw the huge, beautiful stadium, I thought, I can do this. I thought I would go back, but I never did.
It was a wide open frontier.
I loved it. I didn't mind that BYU had certain standards. I'm very liberal-minded, but I do not mind rules. I mean, I accepted that, and I was naturally befitting of that.
Yep.
And had a blast there, and then met another guy and stayed in Salt Lake City, Utah. So.
And there you are today.
And I'm still there.
Yeah, and we're doing a fun project in Salt Lake with you right now.
We're
thanks to you.
A very important, probably one of the most important projects that will happen in the state.
Yeah. Beautiful property also.
I thought I would call my friend Mark Candelaria and Jeff Berghoff, and we would do a wonderful project that would be meaningful for the rest of our lives.
Right.
So.
No, and my partner Vivian Ayala is doing a great job on that one.
She is.
She was going to work with me on it, and she is just so into it that I'm just letting her ride the horse, man. She is on it, and
we're having a great time.
She's fantastic.
Yeah, it'll be very meaningful.
Yep. So you are also doing a lot of work all over the country. I mean, not just Greensboro and Salt Lake. I mean, I've seen your work all over the place.
I say yes to most requests. I like adventure, and because I am stationed in Salt Lake City, I have a fervor for travel. Mm-hmm. So a lot of our projects end up Northern and Southern California. I'm anxious to go to those parts of the country, and those jobs that are out of our local area usually run extremely smooth because the builder's ready, the client's ready, and we go with a list, and boy, you get that done while you're there.
Just working with you the short time I have, I've just been impressed with your organization, your communication. I'm really excited to see your documentation, and I've heard about it. You've shown me some of it. So, I think that's the key to success in this business is there's a lot of interior designers that get out there and just rip out a magazine picture and say, here, this is what I want. Well, it's like, where do we get it?
And by the way, can you please draw that?
Yeah, we've been there.
Yes.
So it's nice when you get to work with an interior designer firm that is organized, has systems, great documentation, the whole thing. It's a whole package.
Well, like I said, I think you have to be 50% business-minded and 50% aesthetic.
Yeah.
And that's the same with all of our choices throughout a home. We aim to be, we promote the 50-50 rule, which is anything practical can also be aesthetic.
Sure.
So our homes are not meant to be just glass houses.
Yeah. No, that's nice. I mean, people want to live in their houses.
They do.
So you come to market quite regularly. How long have you been coming?
Oh my gosh, since I figured out what market meant. I had to teach myself all of these things.
Yep.
I think, my goal in life would be to try to tell the secrets to the young interior designers. I mean, did you know what contract work meant when you first started? Market. What is market? Highpoint. Why is it there? It's because all the trees are there. That's where they make wood furniture. Yeah. Oh, so we go to Highpoint. Well, yeah, I've been going for 24 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I go to the other markets as well. And I really must say, if you're not busy going to LA, San Francisco, New York, Atlanta, as well as a place like Highpoint, I don't think you're as educated on what's out there.
Right.
And probably, I would say, some of perhaps my success is just being aware and constantly motivated by what is new and affected by it, allowing myself to move with it.
Right.
And also become in love with it. There are things that move within you just from being around it and seeing it. You don't even put a finger on it, but suddenly you're anxious to use polished nickel again.
Sure.
Or, as we know it, unlacquered brass.
Right.
Which is my... Did you ask me to talk about unlacquered brass? Oh, you didn't. But I would love to talk about my favorite element in design. And it really is brass, but I'm not talking about the shiny, the faux brass that we're seeing overused right now. I always like to remind my clients that unlacquered brass came well before polished nickel or stainless steel.
Right.
It is historical. It was the first, and it's solid. And when it's solid, there is nothing more beautiful, more tactile.
Yeah, and
more
that's
natural.
something that we're seeing. I've noticed in the last, I don't know, maybe 6 months to a year. You know, we did a lot of heavy Tuscan, as you know, and it got so bastardized and so horribly done by so many people that it really got a bad rap. And then there was a real switch over to transitional and contemporary, and we've been doing a lot of that. But all of a sudden, I'm getting a lot of clients going, you know, I just don't want anything contemporary. It has no soul. It has no meaning. I don't want Tuscan because that's too heavy. It's too dark. But I love the rich materials. I want the openness.
Yes.
But I don't want to live in a sterile box.
Do
you hear that?
I do. The first thing I say when I meet clients is that I have a love affair with organic modern.
Right.
Organic modern means that you've taken these clean, desired walls and shapes, but given them life through texture.
Sure.
And it has to be natural texture. So we always want to touch the outdoors. So we try to bring that outdoor experience indoors through texture as opposed to color.
Right.
So that's why I always prefer my palette, my undertone palette, to be in those warm tones that are universally sanctuary.
Comforting.
And then we add on those layers of color that are interchangeable through time.
Right.
I think that's my preference. Every once in a while, I'll get somebody who wants a lot of color, and we deal with that gracefully.
Right.
As you know, we do whatever we're asked, and we listen.
Sure. I mean, listening is the key to everything.
Yeah. I hope that
God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, right?
And a nose. But I think that I've always felt that my website particularly shows my range. And usually I tell a client that should let you know that I'm listening to the clients. Yeah, otherwise, it would be all my favorite.
Same. Yeah, it would all look the same.
And by the way, they're all my favorite. My favorite is whatever I'm doing at the time.
Yeah. I mean, I love when you do get a client that's engaged, excited, but they respect you, they let you do your job. But it becomes a collaboration. I mean, it's a collaboration of love, your knowledge, your database, their experiences, and it's that whole weave of those things.
It's such a merge.
It's a merge, yeah.
And I think it's undervalued at times because it becomes heartfelt.
Right.
There's no way to do it unless you know that person's soul.
Yeah.
That's the best job.
Yeah.
That's the most successful.
Some clients don't allow that to happen, and I feel sorry for them in a lot of ways, because when you do get a client that does let you do that, it's just so amazing, right?
It's true. I think we do our best work when we sense freedom, but when we are in a relationship with our client.
Sure, absolutely. So how do you stay motivated, and what inspires Anne-Marie?
Oh my gosh, I just came back from a trip from Italy. I know that you did as well. I travel a lot. I am looking all the time, but I am inspired by beautiful things, whether it's in homes or in writing or in art. I do follow the mantra of Frank Lloyd Wright, which is, if you surround yourself with beautiful things, you will have a more beautiful life.
Sure.
So I am always wanting to have that sensibility of beauty.
Right. And I think that's the other thing I try to tell people is, as you go through the day, I think so many people focus on what could go wrong, or they're worried about this and they're worried about that, and it consumes them in the course of the 24 hours that they're spending that day, versus flipping it around to what you just said and focus on the beautiful things that are right around you. And they're there. You're just so busy being preoccupied by all the negativity that you don't see it.
Yeah, I'd much rather surround myself with people that see it as the cup half full.
Right.
And actually, when I run into clients that that is a real stopping point. That's a real question mark when we go back to the office, and we never charge for our first visit,
right.
Because we want to know if it's going to be a soulful experience.
Sure. For both parties.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if it's not, it ruins the flow.
Right.
And by the way, I'd rather stay home and bake cookies than serve a client that is unappreciative of the love that we really give. And it is love.
Right.
It takes love. So you're in a relationship for a long time with these clients. My job usually begins with the architectural phase, and then I'm the last one there.
Right.
So we're the ones that really bear the length of time with the client,
Absolutely.
may I say. So, I've had some compliments through the years. One gave me a very large tip at the end of a job, unexpected, amazing. Another named a child after me. And so, and then we've just had really strong relationships, and I think that's how we know we're doing good work.
Yeah, I think what's easier for us now that we're older. We've both been doing this for quite a while. As you get older, you realize the value of your time, and you know how long these projects are going to take, and you just look at this and you go, okay, do I really want to do this for the next 3 years with this person?
Right.
And it's harder when you're younger. I mean, when you're just starting out,
you'll take anything.
You just want to. And unfortunately, you get stuck with some of those. But I tell you what, those are some great learning experiences.
They are. And aren't we? I think the most important thing for interior designers and architects and professionals in this job is to remain poised.
Right. Professional.
Yes. And I often say, I'm not going to hug this client, but I always end up hugging the client.
Right.
What I mean is at every greeting, at every meeting, because I cannot help but exude that.
Right.
But I always wish I'm going to stay more professional this time. But the truth is, this profession is personal.
Oh, yeah. Extremely personal. I mean, you're doing a house.
Yeah.
How does it get any more personal than that?
Yeah. Well, I'd like to say we're doing a home.
A home. I love that. Yeah. So one of the things that we've kind of incorporated into our whole process is the cooking aspect.
Yes.
And so it's done the same thing for us. It's really, there's something about cooking with our clients and having them over, or whether we have them at their house or our house and everyone's around. There's just something very cathartic about sitting around a table or a kitchen and the process of making and eating and enjoying a delicious meal.
Yes, and it's everything does happen in the kitchen.
Yeah.
These days we're designing kitchens that are much more of a family room.
Oh, yeah.
And the experience is intended to invite more people in and allow them to move around your kitchen freely, because you will enlist their help.
Sure.
Because that's when it's fun.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
It's nearly like a cooking class when you're preparing dinner, whether it's family members or not. And then, by the way, just one added tidbit, I love to have a location for a home central in every kitchen where we can look up recipes, movie theater times, do a little work, but we're still in our kitchen. I don't want to have to go to an office.
Right.
Because the kitchen is my hub.
It's the hub. And that's what I tell everybody also is, no matter how big a house we do, we can do a 40,000 square foot house or a 2,000 square foot house. Where does everyone end up?
You can't get them out of the kitchen.
No, it's the first place they go.
Yeah.
We can divert them into all these different directions. They still end up at that kitchen island.
The living room is so lonely.
It is. Sometimes it is a little lonely over there. Okay, so how do you relax and get away from it all? What do you do to declutter your brain and remove yourself? And
I get home from work about 7:30 at night, and I look forward to dinner with my husband, which oftentimes ends up seriously takeout of a beautiful meal, but takeout. We come home, we get cozy, we eat, have our computers, and watch a show. So that's my daily. But on a larger scale, I definitely take time to travel. And instead of cutting it as short as possible, I'll have that extra day.
Yeah, that's what we do.
Now that my 5 children have left the nest, I'm enjoying a little less guilt. And I would say this, one thing's for sure, for working mothers out there, you never know what you're giving them.
Right.
We're always so worried about what we're not giving to those children as we're working. But I think we ought to concentrate on the gift of entrepreneurship that we're inspiring our children with and inspiring our sons for their future wives and life. So I'm over the guilt, and I want to spread that because I've seen it happen, that my kids are much more interested in grabbing hold of life, taking risks, challenging themselves. And I think there was an influence. They saw their mother working all hours of the night.
Yeah. I think a lot of times as parents, we're preaching this, we're saying that, and we're like, God, are they really even listening? And then, now I have a daughter that's 31, and I see her she's absorbed some of those things. I can see it in the way she's living and the way she's talking now. Took a long time to get there. But I think a lot of times we just think we're just talking to a wall sometimes, but it does get soaked in.
It's more your actions.
Right.
And that my kids have seen me so excited and have so much adrenaline in my day. Literally, I think you asked this, but I may not have answered. I wake up every morning with a sense of a rush for how much I can get done that day.
Right.
And I think that's the blessing that I've been given. I'm excited about my meetings. I'm excited about what in the world's going to be different by the time I go to bed that night. What project is going to have turned? What phone call might I have received? So I'm very
I think we're
high
very
energy.
blessed with the type of careers we've chosen because there are no 2 days ever
that's so true.
the same.
Please don't let me be an accountant. I don't think anyone would let me.
That's right. I couldn't do it.
Although, I must say, I started out in my laundry room with one file drawer. So that is where I began my career. And now we're up to a team of 9 shortly. And we're, still a boutique firm.
Sure.
And I prefer that because for me, I'm the principal on all my projects. If I get too much larger, I will lose that relationship. But
it changes for sure as we've gotten larger.
Yeah, you got to kind of watch that. There's a sweet spot. I'm right in it, and I know it. But to have come from my laundry room and not really knowing so much about this business, I do appreciate being 55 years old. I love knowing this is as good as it gets.
I always tell people today is the youngest you'll ever be again, and it's also the smartest day. Every day you get older, so if you look at the two together, you're the youngest you'll ever be, and you're the smartest you've ever been.
We should be rejoicing.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
High five to you.
Totally. So I was like, don't worry about it. People sweat the small stuff so much. It's like,
but that's what wisdom gives us.
I think it does. Yeah. I mean, I definitely look at life a lot differently at 59 than I did at 29. Big time.
You mentioned about how you appreciate my look at how we actually live in a home.
Right.
I mean, that comes into play truly with how we lay out the kitchen. It comes into play with where are the drapes going to be hung and how are those window coverings going to work. But it also comes into play how they're actually going to live. And one thing I do try to avoid is fantasy living.
Yeah.
So do women really sit and put their makeup on at a bureau? I don't know many that do.
Right.
So one of my first questions is, would you use that?
Yeah, because you asking that.
I'm putting mascara on in the car, so I'm not getting that close. I'm scared to see it that close. So I ask, will you use your balcony? Will you, let's think about having a salon in our home. Frankly, I'd rather leave because I want full treatments when I get there, I don't want limitations.
Right.
So I'm, with some of our larger homes where people can have anything they want, I always try to measure that and make sure we're not going too far.
I mean, I think some of these people would never leave their home with everything they've got in there. Why would you leave?
I kind of like bouncing around hairstylists. Don't tell my hairstylist.
Oh, I have a 94-year-old barber, so
Well, that may be all you need.
That's all I need. So, what do you see on the horizon for Anne-Marie in your business, in your career, and your life?
I'm hoping for an opportunity to have a radio show where people call in and I can ad-lib.
Oh, you'd be great at that.
I'd love to ad-lib answers to problematic home issues. I'd like to talk about anything home, and I'd like to be able to inspire people about their lives.
Well, hopefully I can have you on this podcast a few more times because this has been really fun.
Well, thank you.
You do a great job.
Thank you.
So another quick question, a little off the topic, but we talked about your daily routine. Do you have a morning routine? Is there something you do, or is every day different?
Probably not. I wake up quite early and get that laptop that's just almost next to me in bed, and I begin to roll through delegating.
Organizing your day.
Through, I've got, my associates I've got to lead out. And then I think about what am I going to do? Then I think about what am I going to do that's fun in the evening, with my husband.
Yeah, so you put yourself as a priority on this schedule.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people forget that. They schedule everything else, and they forget to schedule for themselves.
Hey, about 5 years ago, I did a New Year's resolution, and I took it quite seriously. I had lost a daughter, and there was a time of grieving, and it had been 4 years, and I decided I literally had to make the choice that I wanted more joy.
Right.
And so I wrote it down, and from that day forward, whether it was through service to others and bringing them more joy, literally even the person at the grocery store, at the checkout counter,
I do it all the time.
I decided that I would have and bring more joy. And literally, that is my mantra. And I think I do start my day feeling that way and wanting that for my day.
Right. No, I think that's great. I've done the same thing through different experiences. I've realized that every day is a gift. You wake up, you're already way ahead of the curve. You know
That's
what I mean?
true.
I mean,
that's true.
Start celebrating. I say start celebrating the second you wake up, and celebrate to the end of the day. Because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I mean, you were at our house Monday. You saw what happened.
Yeah. Well, and I've been around you, Mark, and you do have, that's one of the reasons that I've promoted you to my clients is I like that attitude, the can-do attitude that you have. Almost anytime there's an issue or a concern, your answers, we can do that.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. I tell my kids we're Candelarias, not Cantelarias.
I love that.
And it's true.
Yes.
I mean, it's all a matter of how you think.
Well, and you bring that energy to the projects.
Yeah, well, thank you. So I am looking so forward to the projects we are doing. I know there will be many more, and I hope there's many more. And I enjoy talking to you because you're totally in the wavelength that I flow in. So I love that. I definitely want to get you back on here again. We'll do some more of this. I'll maybe come to Salt Lake and visit you.
Why don't you?
So we'll do that. So how do we find you? Give us your website and your Instagram.
My Instagram is under my name, Anne-Marie Barton. I keep it simple. My website.
Tag you all the time.
Thank you. My website, Anne-Marie Barton. And the company name is A&B Design.
Yep.
And we're out of Salt Lake City, and we do work all over the country.
And you have a couple fun episodes or series on the Design Network, too.
I think I have 5 series.
Yeah. Tell us what some of those are.
Oh, gosh. The most important one to me is Gracious Living.
Yep.
It's speaking about how to apply easy fixes to your everyday living, not going big, going small in the details.
What we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. One of the others is Materials Matter, helping teach the layman what is involved when picking a countertop, gosh darn it.
Yeah.
What are the details that I need to know when I'm approaching building or remodeling? So I love fact-centric, but then we talk about what is traditional fresh.
Right.
What is that? What does traditional mean these days? So, a bunch of different series.
Yeah, I find them to be very informative. So I really encourage people to watch those because you'll learn a lot just in the course of watching the different episodes you have in that series. They're really well done. So I think we are ready to hit the market. You've been so gracious to spend time here this morning.
To do.
There's a lot to do, so I'm not going to keep you any longer. But thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Like I said, I look forward to all that's ahead for both of us.
Me too. We'll carry on together.
So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, great job there by Anne-Marie Barton of A&B Design. I'll tell you what, she is an absolute joy to work with, and her team does a great job, and we're so excited about the 2 projects we have going with her right now, and we will definitely get her back on the podcast. Now, like I said, I guess I was pretty ambitious thinking I would get everybody squeezed into one, less than an hour podcast, so that's not going to happen. So we're going to do some more podcasts with the guests that I've got lined up for you here in Highpoint. So tune in to the next podcast. I've got a great program with Trish Mills, interior designer extraordinaire from Atlanta, Georgia, and Marco from Scottsdale. His Art Italia showroom here in Highpoint is awesome, and you will love what he's got to say. Anyone in Italy, I love Italy, so we'll kind of have some fun there. It's going to pour a little Prosecco, and we'll see where that one goes. So stay tuned. A lot more shopping to do here in Highpoint. Take care. Love y'all. Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed our podcast. We encourage you to write a review, screenshot it, and share it with your friends. Please instant message it to me and follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We thank you for listening, and we look forward to sharing more insights to inspiring living next week.